Perennial festival.
Oh, well, as a chief, I can expect that. That is within your, your right.
Kaftan TV is invited.
We'll be happy to be there. We're
Yes,
all about Nigerian culture.
Yes,
you know us. But let's talk about what's happening in the national. In fact, in Africa, we're seeing that around the Sahel region, 6 countries are under the military junta at the moment. Why do you think, what is precipitating all of this?
Yeah, that's up to 6 countries. To the best of my knowledge is Mali, Burkina Faso,
Sudan.
Well, so that is not really in the West African sub-region, but Sudan is in the Sahara region. Okay, so part of the Sahara region is in North Eastern Africa.
Africa,
yes,
right.
And then also Central Africa is also part of the Sahara region. But if we have to zero this to West Africa sub-region, that the Sahara region of West Africa, which is Mali, Burkina Faso, and then where again Guinea, and the Guinea is not in the Sahara. So Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger has joined them. So the government, the constitutional order was toppled in Mali and also Burkina Faso. I think the challenge is they have been having challenges with fighting jihadists and Islamists. You know, they have footholds in those countries, and they've been come under severe insecurity, just like what Nigeria is experiencing some part of the northeast and northwest, and even north central. So that is where the problem they have been contending with, and as a result of the inability of governments,
democratic governments,
yes, governments in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and lately Niger, to address that issue, and that is what has led the militaries in those countries to topple, democracy, the constitutional democracy or constitutional order in these countries. Right. Yes. So insecurity, bad governance, and also, the jihadists, that region is so vast, and it's a very difficult region to police. The weather there is very inclement. The topography is very rugged. So Mali is a very big country. Yeah, exactly. Niger too is a very big country. So what caused all this? What was the cause of this insecurity? The remote cause is what happened in Libya. Libya, the government of Gaddafi was toppled about 10 years ago, and by the United States in conjunction with NATO, they took out Gaddafi. Like Gaddafi had a very big army. Libya is not thickly populated, it's sparsely populated, but it has a very sophisticated army, being an oil-rich country. So, and most of the soldiers were from this Sahara region. They were recruited, even some Nigerians. So, when Gaddafi was toppled, and then there was a breakdown of law and order. The Libyan state collapsed, and there were a lot of so many non-state actors came up, militants, militias, and they were fighting amongst themselves. So all the weapons, sophisticated weaponry that Libya acquired when Gaddafi was head of state, they got into wrong hands, and this non-state actors started looking for where countries, weak countries that they could destabilize. That is one of the remote causes of even the Boko Haram insurgency we had in Nigeria. So their focus was on the Sahara region. The Sahara region, most of them are Muslims and all that. So it fell under, they fell under, the what will I say, the sphere of influence the jihadists want to create in the West African sub-region and also the Sahara region. So that is what we are contending with. And so the adventurous militaries in these countries, they have to take advantage, of maybe the insecurity that made governments, constitutionally elected governments, to be very weak in the eyes of the people. So they cash in on that to topple, these governments. But it is against, international law.
Of course.
Yeah, because in the West African region, we have ECOWAS. ECOWAS is Economic Community of West African States. It was founded in 1973, and the objective is to, create a sort of political and economic union in West Africa sub-region. And this union is all, intended to facilitate economic development, integration. These countries, they want these countries to be integrated so that there will be free movement of goods and services. There will be trade, commerce. If you have trade and commerce among the countries, the 16 countries in the economic West African sub-region, it will also trigger economic development, creation of wealth and so forth and so on for young people. So that is it. So in 2001, the ECOWAS came up with this protocol. They call it supplementary protocol on, democracy, good governance, conflict resolution, mediation, and so forth and so on. And also what they call constitutional sharing principles. We don't want military coup.
Right.
Yes. The army must be subject to civilian control. That if we will not tolerate any other means of ascension to government except through free and fair election. So, and all these countries signed that treaty. That treaty was signed with Nigeria, Niger, and all. So, if it was signed, it's a part of international law. Okay, and what is the essence of international law? International law wants there should be order in the Committee of Nations. Right. So there's order so that there will be peace, so that there will be stability, so that there will be well-being of the international community. So that is what we are being confronted with. The government that took over on the 27th of July has breached, Niger has breached that principle. Right. That, we don't want military coups again. We don't want military governments again in the West African sub-region. And some people are making it as if it is a Nigerian thing. It's not a Nigerian thing.
It is an ECOWAS thing. But you can understand why some people have approached this and not with uncertainty. Where do you draw the line when it comes to the sovereignty of the nation and these international laws and this subject to these international laws?
I was telling you about the treaty. Treaty is an agreement.
It's an agreement.
Yes. So it's just like having a contract with you to supply vehicles, and I fail to supply the vehicles. Then, if I want to enforce,
you have breached the agreement.
I go to court, or whatever means I can use to recover, by money. So I don't think international law is that amount to interference with the sovereignty of all these countries. If you sign a treaty, that means you have surrendered the sovereignty of your country.
Right.
Okay. Nobody forced you to sign. You sign it freely. So I don't agree with you that it's a breach of the sovereignty of Niger if ECOWAS is trying to implement a treaty that all the countries agree, to enter into.
Okay. Now, do you think that the military intervention would be too much of a stick approach when it comes to Niger and looking at the landscape and how volatile it is at the moment?
Well, I am not a military expert, but I want to say that that ultimatum that was given was like they wanted to give the regime, the junta, a soft landing.
With the ultimatum?
Yes.
7 days?
Yes. So if we don't do this, we are going to, restore constitutional order through military means. So I don't think they want to fight. They just want to give the junta an opportunity to, to exit from power, a soft landing so that they will not lose face. But unfortunately, the junta is recalcitrant. So, and if ECOWAS intervene, it's not the first time ECOWAS is intervening in the West African sub-region. We have precedents. In Liberia, there was a civil war for so many years, lives were lost, property was destroyed, and ECOWAS came in to restore order in Liberia. And then today Liberia is doing well. If people were protesting or against military intervention in Liberia, today we will not have Liberia, because Liberia was on the verge of disintegration. And that disintegration will have affected West African sub-region, including Nigeria. And Nigeria too, you know, Nigeria is so close to Nigeria. A lot of, we have the population of the Hausa people in Nigeria is about 35% of Nigerian population. That is big. The population of the Hausa people in Nigeria is 54%. The population of the Fulani people is about, you know, maybe 6%. And the population of the Fulani people in Nigeria is about 6.something%. The Kanuri people too are also in Nigeria.
Exactly.
The Kanuri people are they are found in Yobe and Borno states, so they are also in Nigeria. So whatever happens in Nigeria will affect Nigeria. So, and it is a bad precedent for us to have military, you know, government in Nigeria. So it may attract our adventurous, you know, military, some faction of the military that's adventurous to want to take over government. So military regime is outdated. Okay?
It is outdated.
But I was trying to mention other countries. Let me mention other countries ECOWAS has intervened. ECOWAS intervened in the Gambia.
Right.
Yes, when Jammeh, you know, lost an election and they wanted to continue in office, the ECOWAS intervened. Yes, we also, in the 1991, also Sierra Leone was on the verge of disintegration. There was a civil war, you know, and a lot of lives were lost. ECOWAS intervened. We also ECOWAS intervened in Guinea-Bissau. You know, ECOWAS has also intervened in Mali before this time.
Yes.
So a few years ago, the military wanted to take over government, and ECOWAS intervened. So ECOWAS, we have a precedent, we have a history. So this one is not the first time, and it may not be the last.
It may not be the last.
It may not be the last.
But are you afraid, or is this
yes, I'm afraid.
A legitimate
if we allow what is happening or what has happened in Nigeria to hold, if the international community does not intervene decisively and allow constitutional government to be disrupted, it may be come and
spread even further.
Yes, and
because we're also seeing support from Mali, for instance, Burkina Faso,
so
other
Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, you know, it's wrong. It will be a bad precedent, because these regimes can also threaten constitutional regimes in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Benin, in Togo, in Guinea, in Senegal, all the West African sub-region, you know, about, you know, which are all these countries are integrated one way or the other, you know, so that we have to stamp that out and ensure that every country complies with the treaty that outlaws non-constitutional means of taking over power.
Okay, so how much does the ECOWAS still have an influence on member states? I mean, with the supplementary protocol and all the treaties we often sign. The
supplementary protocol is a treaty.
It's a treaty. It's an agreement. Yes. But it's like a dog that barks but does not bite.
No, I don't think so. I've mentioned
about
5 or 6 countries where ECOWAS has intervened and restored.
But we also remembered very recently Burkina Faso that in strong terms they were under sanctions, but nothing happened.
No, they are under sanctions.
But for those sanctions,
they are under economic sanctions, and it's hurting their economy. So, which would likely one day to result in their economies to collapse. So don't take it lightly. It's not something to be toyed with. If sanctions are imposed on you, you cannot trade, you cannot do anything. Anything you have to do is you have to go to the black market to trade, to import goods into the country. You know, these countries are landlocked. So if economic sanctions are imposed, they cannot use the port in Nigeria, they cannot use the port in Ghana, they cannot use the port in Togo. These countries are landlocked. They don't have access to the sea, like Nigeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and so forth and so on. So I'm sure it's biting. You know, it's biting, the economic hardship is biting them. seriously, affecting the population. So why do you want your population to suffer? If you say you are a government, the basic function of government is
to
security
provide,
and welfare.
exactly.
So if that is the essence of government, why do you want to subject our population to that kind of hardship because of the fact that some people want power?
But do you think there will ever come a time that this hardship will be so strong that the military junta will say, you know what, let's let this go?
Yes, even Russia, that is a military power, also a war power. Russia is industrialized. Russia is rich. You know, the sanctions imposed on Russia by United Nations, by EU, is biting hard. You know, it's biting hard. It's affecting the economy of Russia. So talk less of countries that are very poor, like Niger. Niger has nothing, though it has a lot of minerals. You know, but it has not harnessed well
exactly
to it's one of the poorest
make an
countries.
Impact. Right.
It's one of the poorest countries. So I don't think they can survive sanctions for long.
Okay, you say so, but you just mentioned Russia, and it was funny that we saw Nigerians supporting this coup. Did that surprise you? And while supporting this coup,
you know, I fought military rule. I was arrested many times. I was incarcerated many times, and the military didn't do well. Most of the problems that the current civilian government have been trying to solve from 1999 till now, till date, it was caused by the military. Okay, so the military took over, and they claimed that they were going to solve, you know, all these problems. From 1966, 15 January 1966, when they took over, they toppled the government. The Nigerian was very stable. We had a good government.
Right.
There was a good civil service. We were doing well. At that time, people were even comparing Eastern region, Western region. They were comparing them with Malaysia. And it seems at that time that Nigeria was coming up to be a medium income country in the bracket of Brazil, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore. But the military caused this country to stagnate for almost 40 years. Okay? They didn't invest in electricity. They didn't invest anything. Okay? The country became corrupt. Even during the military regime, we were rated the most corrupt country. So those who are saying, because you lost election, I mean, they don't know what they are talking about. If they were young people like us,
who had fought the
military, who experienced military rule, and you know, the military plunged this country into a civil war. You must have forgotten. From 1967 to 1970, there was a civil war in Nigeria. Millions of people died.
Exactly.
Okay, and it also truncated our development, because for 3 years the country was not doing anything than using, you know, what we have to fight that war. So I don't think anybody who is in his correct senses should advocate for military rule. Military rule is outdated. One-party system is outdated. Democracy that will bring development, and we have seen it elsewhere.
Okay, well, we're going for a short break right now. The 7-day ultimatum by the ECOWAS, that's the regional bloc, has come and gone. What else? What next for the ECOWAS? What's the next step, especially as the Nigerian Senate rejected President Tinubu's military intervention plan? We'll be right back after this short break.
While wrapping up the day, unwind with the reminiscence of the day's news from home and abroad with Kaftan TV 7 p.m. News.
Good to have you join us on Kaftan News at 7.
Nigerians are living in up to 5%. Our young people, we propose the harmony symphony.
It's good to have you join us on Kaftan TV News at 7.
What we found that this 10 naira card is not actually sufficient.
National foreign news headlines. Get balanced, accurate facts on the latest news in business, politics, entertainment, sports, and more. Live from our studios.
Many thanks for watching. And join us again at 9
Kaftan
p.m.
TV News.
Welcome back. This is still Joyasonyelive. Now, all eyes are on the next move by West African leaders who had initially vowed to attack coup leaders in Niger if they fail to free the detained president and revert back to democratically elected government. What other aces are up for them? Obol Okoy Obonobla, APC chieftain, right here in the studio, would do justice to that. What next is there as the ace for the ECOWAS to play just to ensure that democracy reigns in Niger, and as above all, the president who's been held in captive is released?
Well, this thing is not all about ECOWAS. The United Nations, which is the umbrella organization that whose objective is to promote international peace and international legal order, stability, and the well-being of the international community, has condemned that coup. The EU, which is also another formidable regional organization.
Right.
I'm sure Nigeria is benefiting a lot from the interventions of EU, yes, in maybe poverty alleviation, governance issues, and so forth and so on. Has also condemned that coup and has asked the military junta to restore constitutional order. The United Nations, United States of America, that is a world power. It has international clout. It has international weight. It's influential. It's one of the best militaries, if not the best, in the world. They have also condemned that coup. So I don't see the military junta in Nigeria, surviving the economic sanctions that will be imposed by the EU, the United Nations, the United States of America, and ECOWAS. And remember that there is a military base. There's a U.S. military base in Niger, and they have been supporting the armed forces there to fight, the Islamists. And I don't think if they move out of Niger, the Islamists will not overrun Niger. Yes, the Islamists will overrun Nigeria, and that is where Nigerian interest is. We should not allow anything to happen to Nigeria. If anything happens to Nigeria, it will affect Nigeria. I have mentioned that some of our ethnic groups are in Nigeria. Okay. The Fulani people, the Hausa people, the Kanuri people, they are in Nigeria. So we have a duty, a responsibility as part of our strategic national interest, to ensure that there is peace, there is stability in Nigeria. About 7 states in the northern states share boundary with
and we're talking over 1,000 foot paths that lead in and out.
And Nigeria has 25 million people. So if Nigeria is destabilized, there will be an influx of refugees into Nigeria. So when some people want to make it as if it is President Tinubu's agenda, I begin to wonder if they are not looking at all these issues that will likely come up when Islamists topple the government or the junta, the military junta in Nigeria, because the Islamists will take them on.
It might, but we're also hearing support from neighboring countries that
Who's
have
neighboring?
like the Burkina Faso that we have mentioned, Mali, for instance.
Burkina Faso also has issues with the Islamists.
It does.
And
but where I'm going is, should Nigeria go ahead with the military intervention? These countries have also vowed to support Niger.
That is just
so wouldn't there be too much?
Let me come. That is also blustering.
Of course.
Yes, I don't think they have the capacity, because the militaries in Mali are overstretched. Do you know that there are Nigerian troops there? There are Nigerian police people there, police officers in Mali.
Who went for Peace Corps.
Yes, peacekeeping.
Peacekeeping.
So imagine if the contingent is taken out, the United Nations contingent is taken out of Mali, is taken out of Burkina Faso, they will be overrun by Islamists. You don't underrate the Islamists. They are very, very strong. They can take on any government. They took on the Americans in Afghanistan, and they were able to dislodge the American military. After so many billions of dollars were spent, they had to leave Afghan. They withdrew. So you don't underrate them. And all these countries, also even the countries that have boundary with Nigeria, like Algeria, they also have issues with the Islamists. So I don't think it's something that should be taken lightly. We should be very, very careful. Because we also have issues with the Islamists, the Boko Haram, which is very strong. For the past 10 years, we have been contending with the Boko Haram, and we have not been able to stamp them out or to defeat them.
Completely.
Yes. So if we don't have a strong government, a constitutional government that will be supported by the international community, I don't think the military junta in Nigeria will survive. And if they don't survive, Nigeria will be threatened.
Nigeria will be threatened.
Yes.
Nigeria seems to already be threatened. Like you said,
we are already under threat.
We have our Islamic Islamist problem going on with the Boko Haram. Don't you think our military is already overstretched?
It is.
With dealing with that, if we
not
have to
include
military intervention.
Not only Boko Haram, also the banditry that is happening, also the militancy in the south, the southeast, and so forth and so on. So are
we not overstretched if we have to include this joining ECOWAS for...
ECOWAS has 16 countries.
It does?
Yes, 16 countries. Let's take out Mali, let's take out Burkina Faso, let's take out Niger. There are 13 countries, so you contribute troops.
True.
Yes.
Yes, they'll contribute.
So we don't need to...
But you've also known what the big broader role that Nigeria plays when it comes to such things.
Well, you see, everything has consequences. Nigeria is a leader. Whether take it or leave it.
It is.
It's in the West African sub-region in Africa. So we should not just be happy that Nigeria is a giant. The consequences of our leadership is also to show leadership. Also to spend money, to maintain their leadership. Because if Nigeria, as I told you, is destabilized, what we are going to spend to contain the Islamists will be more than what we are going to spend in conjunction with other countries in ECOWAS. So take out the military junta.
Well, the Nigerian Senate has said no to this military intervention. What would you say if you have to advise? The Nigerian
Senate has no power to stop military intervention. The Nigerian Senate has responsibility to ensure that international law is complied with.
Of course.
And this issue is about international law, international peace, international stability, international order.
However international you have mentioned, we need the Nigerian monies to also foster some of this.
That's how would I put it? I've told you the consequences of allowing Nigeria that is in the sphere of influence of Nigeria. Do you know why Russia is fighting Ukraine? Russia is fighting Ukraine because NATO, which is a rival military organization to Russia, wants to have a foothold in Ukraine. And Russia knows that if they have a foothold in Ukraine, they will monitor what goes on in Russia. They will spy on Russia, and Russia will be weakened. They may even destabilize Russia, or even sponsor a coup. So that is why Russia said, look, Ukraine, you cannot bring NATO into our doorstep. If you do that, we are going to fight you. So that is it. So we have an obligation to ensure that those countries are not destabilized, because if they are destabilized, it will affect us. The money we are saying we don't want to spend, we will spend more than that. Because when those refugees come into the country, the Islamists may use them as a camouflage. They may use them as a guise to enter the country, because our boundary is so porous. Okay, so it is in our interest that we should sort out, be interested in what is happening in Niger. If I'm not advocating military action, we can use both, both military and then also mediation. That what the president did last week, he dispatched the Sultan of Sokoto, and Ambassador Kinkibe, and because traditionally, before colonialism, Nigeria was under the Sokoto Caliphate. So the Sultan of Sokoto, who is a renowned Muslim leader in West Africa, in that Sahara region, he was asked to go and talk to the military junta to see reason for them to restore democracy and prevent, the consequences of their, hijacking power. Because you don't know, there may be other factions that are opposed to the military.
Exactly.
They may use it as an advantage. So to want to topple the military, or the military may be broken into factions. And if it is broken into factions, we are returning to what we have seen in Libya, where the military broke into several factions. And they started fighting themselves. Look at Sudan too. The military broke into factions.
And there we are, also having a head of state. Right?
So I think the Senate has a duty to look at these issues dispassionately. They fear that there's Russia and all that, and that the situation will become complicated, and the military may not be able to resolve this issue quickly, and will be bogged down. The military may be bogged down. It's just speculative, I don't think Niger military is so strong that they will be able to withstand ECOWAS force. Burkina Faso and Mali, they are also bogged down with their internal problems.
They are.
Yeah, I don't think they may want to send troops to go and fight in Niger. As I said, they are also under threat of the Islamists. That is what was responsible for the military to topple the governments in Burkina Faso and Mali.
Chief Obanobla, why are we having the ECOWAS seem like they can bite now? What happened when Burkina Faso had their own coup? What happened when Mali had their own it seems that like period, Niger seemed to be the one to
No, I don't think
go after right now.
I don't think so. The person who was the ECOWAS president, the ECOWAS has a president. You remember President Tinubu was elected.
Right.
Yeah, the president of ECOWAS. And based on the prevailing circumstances and experiences, what has happened in what do you call it, in Mali and Burkina Faso, that economic sanctions did not really stop the military, from its course, or the militaries in those countries from its course. So that is why this time around, when President Tinubu took over, he said, we will not tolerate military. He said so, military coup again. So I think it's based on that, that the ECOWAS wants to show that they can talk and they can also hit.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe it's a declaration that we will not, tolerate military coup, because the military coup, I even heard last week there was an attempted coup in Sierra Leone.
Yes, in Sierra Leone.
Yeah, so if we allow this, the military will take over all constitutional governments. And
I read about Cote d'Ivoire, where the military heads, some of the military heads had to be arrested for plotting a coup as well. Yeah, so we're seeing that Africans do not seem ready for this democracy. Is it something the West is pushing down our throats?
I don't think Africans are not ready for democracy. There was a time we had so many, almost all African countries were under one party's government system, and also some other under military rule. But that was in the 1990s, in the 1980s, in the 1970s. Military coups are outdated. Because in those times, it was an international community, the world powers that used to sponsor some of those coups. You know,
and
because,
you don't think that's also what's playing out now?
No. That doctrine has changed after the end of the Cold War. You know, the Cold War was fought between Russia. Then Russia was known as Union of Socialist or Soviet Socialist Republic, USSR. So for a long time, there was a face-off between the Western Bloc, United Kingdom, France, Netherlands, Germany, America, against the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was made up of so many countries like Georgia, even Ukraine was under the Soviet Union. And then in 1990, it crumbled. The Soviet Union crumbled. And all communist regime that were relying on the Soviet Union crumbled, like Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, all those countries crumbled. Okay? And then that brought to an end the Cold War. After the end of the Cold War, every country started embracing democracy.
Right.
They know that, the one-party dictatorship, are no longer attractive because they don't promote creativity, they don't promote innovation, they don't promote competition. If any economy there's no competition, even a political system that does not compete will not, do well.
Okay.
So
I just want to quickly add that for those who would like to be part of the communication, the number to call is on the screen. So you can call to hear, to contribute, comment, or ask questions. But sorry to cut you there. You were talking about how the one-party system is no longer attractive.
It's no longer attractive, because
but here we are seeing
it does not promote creativity. It doesn't promote competition. So you can compare the USSR economy. We are talking about Russia and America or the Western Bloc. And that is one of the reasons that the Soviet Union crumbled. Even the military, they had inferior weapons as compared to the weapons you have from the Western Bloc and all that. So I think democracy is doing well. Ghana is stable. Ghana is doing well. Some countries, even Ivory Coast, that had a civil war. Even Nigeria, we have had democracy for 24 years now. It may not be perfect.
It may not be perfect.
But it's a stepping stone.
However, what are we doing right?
We are doing everything right.
Really?
We are doing everything right.
Because the justification for Niger recently is economic challenges and security.
Well, we have
problems.
America has economic challenges. Last week, people were demonstrating in London. So we have to be patient. We don't expect, there's no country that has no problem, whether economic problem or political problem. We have to solve them together. It's not by asking the military to come. When the military come, they complicate issues, which we have seen in Nigeria.
Exactly.
There's nothing the military was able to solve. They created states that are not viable, created local governments that are not viable. So that is it. They didn't sort out our electrical problem, electric issues, petrol, refineries, and all that. They were not sorted out. Our institutions were not were weakened. Because if you don't have due process, if you don't have order, people would always take laws into their hands. It is democracy that will sort out those issues. If I quarrel with you, I don't need to fight you. I can go to an institution that is established to ensure that there's mediation, there's conflict resolution, and so forth and so on. The military doesn't believe in that. The military believes in using power, force. Now, force and power doesn't solve everything.
Right.
Yes.
So that we do not see more of these coups in.
Let me just give you an example too. If you look at countries in South Africa, like Botswana, even Kenya, countries that didn't experience military rule, they are better. In terms of economic development.
However, are we always going to blame the military period?
I'm not blaming the military, but the military contributed substantially. I have mentioned what the military did when they took over power in Nigeria, and when it resolved the power struggle in the military, because the military became fractionalized. Nzogu led the coup, didn't take over government. It was Aguiyi-Ironsi.
Exactly.
And then Aguiyi-Ironsi was toppled by Gowon, and because of that, rivalry, the military was divided. We had Ojukwu on one side, go one on the other side. They were unable to settle their differences. What came about was a civil war, a tragic civil war where millions of people died.
Exactly.
What we suffered, what this country suffered as a result of that civil war, we are still feeling it. About 50 years. Even what is happening in Southeast Nigeria is also a consequence
of that civil
of that coup. Okay, that resulted in the eastern region of Nigeria wanting to break away, and then at the end of the day there was a fight between the federal government of Nigeria and the Biafra. So that is it.
Okay, since we have international blogs and regional blogs now, giving sanctions and all of that, why won't we have these blogs also go into strengthening our democratic institutions so that there would be no such thing? Because you can understand why when we watch those videos of a large people supporting the coups, and you ask yourself, do these people understand?
I don't want you to. I've told you, those people you saw on TV. I mean, can you? You know how those things are organized. I'm a politician. If you want to organize people to support the government of Tinubu, we know what to do to mobilize the people to come out. They may not believe in what we are asking them to do because maybe they want some money or they want some patronage, largely money. You just give them money. Maybe 1,500 naira. People will turn up. So in a country of 25 million naira, 25 million people, how do you now use the number of people you saw on TV to gauge the support of the population for the military or military coup or for civilian democratic rule? Okay,
irrespective. Yeah. You can understand why some people might feel like our democracy is volatile.
Every democracy is volatile. Let me give you an example. What's happening in America in 2020 is still reverberating. Maybe you have not heard. Yesterday, Trump was charged to court for refusing the result of the 2020 presidential election. So if American democracy, that is about 300 years old, has challenges, talk less of nascent democracies like Nigeria or what we have in West Africa. All these countries are young countries. Okay, and Nigeria has a history of military coups, almost nine military coups. There was a military coup in 2021. Maybe you may not know. They wanted to stop the inauguration of President Mohammed Bazoum.
Yeah.
Yes. So it has a history of instability and military coups.
So if you have to suggest anything, because we're really running out of time, to the president who happens to double as the president of ECOWAS right now.
Well, I think the ECOWAS should also use the diplomatic option. And also, also
carrot and stick.
Yes, use the carrot and stick approach is very important. Even in internal, politics, you use carrot and stick approach. I think that's what they are doing. And voice have been sent to a lot of countries like Algeria. That's also a sub-regional power that has boundary with Niger. If they apply pressure from Algeria, they may not be able to withstand what ECOWAS will get. Right. Yeah, exactly.
But have you seen General Chiani? That's the military head now.
Yeah,
have you seen him?
Abdurrahman Chiani.
Does it look like he wants to bulge?
Well,
because very often it's the people that suffer.
You cannot. There is no science to make read their mind what you are thinking. But I'm also is under pressure. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to be maltreated. So he has a family. He's 57 years old. I don't think he wants to die. I don't think he wants to end that way. So I think maybe with time he will be reasonable. He will come to his senses.
Okay, so what do you think about the safety of President Mohammed Bazoum right now? Do you think?
Well, I thought he's under arrest. If he's maltreated, there will be consequences.
Okay.
International law will come up. Yes. the international law will come up. I know there's also, we have a international criminal court of justice.
Right.
Yes, that will, you know, if you maltreat anybody, if you go outside the rules of engagement, there's a rules of engagement. Even if Nigeria is fighting Niger or ECOWAS is fighting, there's a rule of engagement. There are laws of war. You know, if you maltreat people because they are under your captivity, and then you also be ready to suffer some consequences. So I believe they would not want to maltreat him. Everybody is aware, and they know that if he dies or if he's hurt, then the people who have taken over government, the military junta, will be held responsible. And you know, the sanctions, if they start imposing sanctions now, they can't travel. Their families cannot travel. You know, so why do you have to subject your family to all this excruciating hardship? You know, so I think
above all,
the
people of Niger.
Yeah.
Okay, Okoye Obonobla, APC chieftain and social commentator. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you, Joy.
Right. This is where we draw the curtains on Joyasonyelive today. It's been interesting talking about Niger. Republic's coup and the military intervention plan of ECOWAS. Tomorrow we'll have more for you, so have a wonderful evening for now until we meet again.
Thank you.